Obama left the White House, but did he ever really leave power? The real money, the real influence, it never stopped. And Elon Musk just exposed how deep it really goes. Tucker Carlson adjusts his tie, leans forward, and looks straight into the camera. His expression is sharp, his tone measured but heavy with anticipation. The air in the studio feels thick, charged with the weight of what's about to be revealed. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that's been hiding in plain sight. Something so massive, so deeply ingrained in how modern politics work, that most people don't even question it. But once you hear what we're about to discuss, you won't be able to ignore it anymore. He lets the words hang for a moment before continuing. We all know former presidents write books. They give speeches. They buy mansions in places most Americans will never set foot in. But what if I told you that's just the surface? What if I told you that one former president has built something far beyond what anyone imagined, using influence, global connections, and money that, if we're being honest, should raise serious questions? He turns to his guest. Elon Musk is here tonight, and he's about to break this story wide open. The camera shifts to Elon Musk, seated across from Carlson. He's relaxed, but there's a sharpness in his gaze. He knows what he's about to say will turn heads. He takes a breath, then leans in slightly. Tucker, let me put it this way. When you really break it down, Obama's post-presidency isn't just about book deals and speaking fees. It's about a system that lets people who were supposed to serve the public walk away with fortunes rivaling Silicon Valley billionaires. And the real question is, who's funding it? And what are they getting in return? Carlson nods, eyebrows furrowed. This isn't just another political discussion. This is something deeper, something bigger. You're saying there's more to this than just making money after leaving office? Musk exhales, shaking his head slightly, as if the answer should be obvious. A lot more. Look, people think politicians retire into a quiet life. But that's not what happens. What happens is they enter a different game. One where influence is the currency. And Obama? He's mastered it. The real story isn't just about his wealth. It's about how he got there, who helped him, and why they did it. Carlson leans back, absorbing Musk's words. The audience can feel it. This conversation is heading somewhere explosive, somewhere that might challenge everything they thought they knew about power in America. But Musk isn't done yet. The camera zooms in on Carlson's face. He's listening, but there's a weight behind his expression, a quiet storm brewing. He clasps his hands together on the desk, tilts his head slightly, then fires off the first real challenge. Elon, let's not dance around it. People know former presidents make money after they leave office. That's not new. But you're saying Obama's different. You're saying there's a machine behind him. What exactly are we looking at? Musk exhales sharply, as if preparing for the gravity of his next words. It's not just about money, Tucker. It's about influence. Long-term, global influence. Obama left office, and within a few years he wasn't just wealthy. He was one of the most powerful private figures in the world. But the question nobody is asking is how. Because the math doesn't add up. Carlson squints, intrigued. What doesn't add up? Musk sits up, shifting slightly in his chair. Let's start with real estate. He bought a massive mansion in Martha's Vineyard, $12 million. Then there's the D.C. estate, another multi-million-dollar property, a third home in Hawaii. These aren't just houses, Tucker. They're fortresses. And yet the public was told these purchases came from book deals and speeches. I run multi-billion-dollar companies, and even I know that doesn't track. Carlson's eyebrows rise slightly, but he stays quiet. Musk continues. Let's look at the numbers. Obama's memoir deal? Reportedly $65 million. His speaking fees? Upwards of $400,000 per event. Now, at face value, that's a lot of money. But when you consider his lifestyle, his investments, his foundation, and his global partnerships, this isn't a man living off old book royalties. This is a man still playing the game at a level nobody's talking about. So you're saying these book deals, These speaking fees, they're just a cover? Musk smirks slightly, but there's no humor in it. A distraction. The real money isn't coming from publishing houses or lecture halls. It's coming from something much bigger. Private deals, global partnerships, and most importantly, strategic alliances with some of the wealthiest, most powerful people on the planet. And you have proof of this? Musk nods. I've seen the patterns, the shell companies, the offshore investments. But it's not just about documents, it's about connections. Who he meets with, where he travels, what industries he suddenly takes an interest in. Tucker, this isn't just about Obama. This is about an entire system that lets former politicians cash in at levels that should be illegal. And once you see how deep this goes, you start to understand. This isn't a retirement plan. This is something else entirely. Carlson exhales slowly. He's seen a lot in his career, but something about this hits different. And Musk isn't finished. Tucker Carlson leans forward, fingers interlocked. The weight of Musk's words lingers in the air, but he knows there's more. There has to be more. You're saying Obama isn't just making money. He's still playing the game. Explain that. How does a former president keep influence after leaving office? Musk's expression tightens. He glances toward the camera for a second, as if measuring his words carefully. Tucker, let me put it this way. Obama never left. He just changed positions. Think about it. Most former presidents fade into the background. They write their books, do a few charity events, maybe start a foundation. But Obama? He's different. He's still meeting with world leaders. He's still involved in shaping policy. And this is key. He's still influencing industries that tie back to the same donors who funded his campaigns. Carlson exhales through his nose, shaking his head slightly. Give me an example. Musk doesn't hesitate. Tech, green energy, media. 3 industries where influence is worth more than gold. And Obama? He has direct ties to all of them. Look at who he visits, who he partners with, who benefits from the policies he still quietly pushes behind closed doors. Carlson's lips press into a thin line. He already knows where this is going. Silicon Valley. Musk nods, his face unreadable. Bingo. Tucker, the people who made billions off government contracts during his presidency, they're still writing checks. They're still opening doors for him. It's a revolving door. And here's the part that should really make people question everything. Obama's influence hasn't decreased. It's grown. Because he's no longer in office. He has no restrictions. Musk spreads his hands. Exactly. No transparency laws. No oversight. Just access. And that's what people don't get. Once a president leaves office, their power doesn't vanish. It just gets repackaged. And Obama? He's been repackaged into something far more powerful than anyone realizes. Carlson shakes his head, exhaling sharply. So, what you're saying is, the speeches, the book deals, the foundations, that's all window dressing. The real power play is happening in boardrooms, private jets, and closed-door meetings with billionaires. Musk nods once, slow and deliberate. And that's where the real money is. Not in royalties, not in guest lectures, in deals, in influence, in industries that control information, energy, and global markets. And Obama? He's been playing that game better than anyone. Carlson's expression hardens. This isn't just about one man's wealth. It's about how the system works. And Musk is about to take it even further. Carlson exhales sharply, glancing at his notes. This isn't just about post-presidency wealth anymore. It's about something much bigger, something global. He lifts his gaze to Musk, eyes sharp. You're telling me Obama's influence didn't stop when he left the White House, that he's still moving pieces on the board. But that kind of power, real power, it doesn't just come from billionaires in Silicon Valley. It comes from something much bigger, something outside the United States. Musk nods, his jaw tightening slightly. Now you're getting it. Tucker, Follow the money. Because when you do, you start to see a pattern, one that leads outside of America. Obama isn't just making deals here, he's making them overseas. And the people funding this lifestyle? They're not just donors, they're world players, industry giants, foreign governments that still have a vested interest in U.S. policies. Carlson leans forward slightly, his voice low and firm. Which governments? Musk doesn't hesitate. China, the Middle East, parts of Europe. It's not just about speaking gigs, Tucker. It's about strategic partnerships, think tanks, foundations with vague, humanitarian goals that just so happen to align with the interests of foreign investors. Obama doesn't need to sit in the Oval Office anymore. He can influence policy from the outside, while still collecting massive paychecks from people who want access to U.S. power structures. Carlson's lips part slightly, his face shifting from intrigue to something else, something closer to disgust. So let me get this straight. You're saying that while Americans are out here struggling with inflation, job losses, rising costs, a former president is out there making money hand over fist. Not just from American corporations, but from foreign entities who still see him as a ticket to influence? Musk exhales, shaking his head slightly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And the reason nobody talks about it? Because he's not alone. This is how the system works. Presidents don't retire, Tucker. They graduate. And if you play the game right, you don't just retire rich. You retire powerful. Carlson sits back, his jaw tightening. This isn't just about one man's wealth anymore. It's about an entire system built to keep the public distracted while power moves behind closed doors. Carlson sits back in his chair, arms crossed, a deep crease forming between his brows. The weight of Musk's words hangs in the air like a thick fog. For a moment he just stares at him, processing everything. So let's put this into perspective. Obama doesn't just walk away from the presidency a rich man. He walks away still holding the keys to power, still making moves behind the scenes, still pulling strings that shape industries, policies, and global markets. And the average American? They have no idea this is happening. Musk nods slowly, his expression unreadable. That's the point, Tucker. It's designed that way. Politicians leave office and people assume they fade into history. But that's just an illusion. The truth is, they just move into a different phase, one with even fewer restrictions, where they can operate without scrutiny. And the real kicker? The same people who funded their rise to power are still there, still backing them, still benefiting. Carlson scoffs, shaking his head slightly. And yet, we're told to believe in democracy, that our votes shape the future, that elections determine who holds power. Musk lets out a dry chuckle, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Elections change the faces in front of the camera. But the real power? That doesn't change. It just moves in the background. Think about it. How many former politicians do you see quietly sitting on corporate boards? How many of them suddenly become advisors to billion-dollar firms? They aren't being paid for their expertise, Tucker. They're being paid for their connections, for their influence. And Obama? He's the gold standard of this system. Carlson rubs his face, exhaling sharply through his nose. The disgust is evident now, not just with Obama, but with the entire game. So, what does this mean for the rest of us? What does it mean for the average person sitting at home watching this, realizing that the people they once trusted are still out there making backroom deals, securing generational wealth while the rest of the country struggles? Musk's expression hardens, his voice taking on a sharper edge. It means the system isn't broken, Tucker. It's working exactly as it was designed to. And if people don't start paying attention, it's only going to get worse. Carlson exhales, looking straight into the camera. He knows the audience is feeling it now. That quiet frustration. That realization that the game was rigged long before they ever had a chance to play. And Musk still has one final piece to reveal. Carlson's grip tightens on his pen, tapping it lightly against the desk. He's always known that corruption runs deep. But this is something else. The scale, the precision, it's surgical. He shifts in his seat, his tone lowering slightly as if preparing for impact. So let's take this to its logical conclusion. If what you're saying is true, if Obama has been operating behind the scenes at this level, then the real question is, what is he doing now? What's the end game? Musk exhales through his nose, tilting his head slightly before answering. Tucker, you don't build an empire just to sit back and watch. You build it to expand. And right now, Obama isn't just influencing policy. He's positioning himself as one of the most powerful private figures on the planet. Not a politician, not a businessman. Something in between. A gatekeeper. Carlson frowns. A gatekeeper to what? Musk leans forward slightly, his voice low and deliberate. To the future. Of industry. Of media. Of government itself. He's not just another former president, Tucker. He's an architect. And whether people realize it or not, the world they're living in right now, he's had a hand in shaping it. And that's only going to continue. Carlson lets out a slow breath, staring at Musk. He doesn't blink. The implications of what was just said settle over the studio like a thick, invisible weight. So the American people, the ones who voted, who thought they were making a difference, they're just spectators? Musk's lips press into a thin line. Not spectators, Tucker. Consumers. Products. The people in power don't just control the system. They control the narratives that keep everyone in line. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Carlson looks straight into the camera. For the first time in the entire interview, there's no trace of performance, just something raw, something that almost feels like anger. And then he speaks. Carlson lets the silence linger, not for dramatic effect, but because there's nothing left to say that won't cheapen the weight of what's just been revealed. He exhales through his nose, glances down at his notes, then tosses them aside. None of it matters anymore. He looks straight into the camera, his voice steady but edged with something deeper. If you're watching this right now, I want you to think about something. How many times have you been told that democracy works, that your vote matters, that politicians serve you? And how many times have you seen the exact opposite happen, over and over again, no matter who's in office? He pauses, letting the question sink in before continuing. We were taught to believe in a system that rewards honesty, that punishes corruption, that gives power back to the people. But tonight, we've laid out something different. Something most people don't want to admit. Power doesn't disappear. It doesn't retire. It just moves. And when it does, it takes everything with it. Your trust, your future, your choices. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about Obama. It's about a system that was never designed to serve you in the first place. Carlson turns to Musk, as if giving him the last word. Musk leans back in his chair, his expression unreadable. People need to wake up, Tucker. Not just to Obama, but to all of it. Because as long as the public keeps playing along, keeps believing what they're told, nothing changes. But the moment they start asking real questions, the moment they start demanding real answers, that's when things shift. That's when the game gets dangerous. Carlson nods, slow and deliberate, before looking back at the camera one last time. So ask yourself, are you paying attention? Or are you just another pawn in a game you didn't even know existed? The screen cuts to black. If you found this conversation important, if it made you think, share it. Talk about it. Ask the questions no one else is asking. And most importantly, don't just listen, act.